All right, moving on to steps 3 and, well, 3. We'll finish up with 3, because 3 will get us where we want to go. But just for the sake of, as I was talking about in the previous video, I'm happy with where this is at on the passenger side. I'm also generally happy where it is on the driver's side. So when I do the last road wheel station with the shock absorber, just so we're all straight up on it, everything's in line as of right now. I'm going to put this off to the side because we're building everything else. And by everything else, I mean road wheels, sprockets, and so on, and we'll do a little bit of comparison. So let's start with the sprockets. 2 parts for each of the hubs, and then the rings, the tooth rings for the drives themselves. And it's pretty simple. Just put these together with glue, and they're ready to rock and roll with the rings. Now, they do have the raised interior ring and the reinforcements in the back, as they should. So these are correct. There we go. What kind of perplexes me is there's a little bit of missing detail in there. I mean, is anybody really going to care? You're going to care if you care. If you don't care, you're not going to care. Now, these tooth rings have the bolts on the outside, and they have an interior ring for gluing this on. So then you put this on the right way. Now, here's the deal. As far as I can tell, and I don't see anything, there's no positive reinforcing or lock-in for this. This just gets glued on. In real life, this gets bolted on in a very specific way, and here is my sprocket that I made. And you'll notice that the way that this is set up, one of these teeth goes straight over the top of one of the strengthening arms, and then from there it gets sent out, which means it's not going to be centered over every single thing. This is, I don't even know the right word, non-asymmetrical. But the point being is that make sure that when you put this on, you glue this on, that at least one of the teeth is over one of the arms, I guess, to lock that in. And otherwise, yeah, looks about right. Yes, I'm using my own part as a standard because I spent way too much time trying to discern exactly what the shapes were and how that went, and redesigning that sprocket at least twice. It was mildly annoying, to say the very least. So once you've got both of those on, then you have to make sure that the tooth patterns match, at least to the best of your ability. I generally put it on and then put it on something flat and make sure that the teeth, that should be good. But here you have a sprocket. I will quickly do the same thing with the other one. Put that in. Glued. Like I said, the plastic that RFM is using is very accepting of, at least in my case, the tester's glue. So it gets nice and soft, but it really does start to weld this stuff together nicely. I'm overall, I'm happy with the plastic that they've used to make the kit. Their engineering choices, of course, might take a little, might be a little questioned, but at least the plastic, the formulation that they're using for their styrene is good. Make sure everything's in good shape. Okay, real quick, just to show. This is mine, this is theirs. Personally, I think their sprocket teeth are a little too thin. I think they should be a little bulkier from the photos that I've seen. But the depth of the whole thing is almost identical, which should be. I think that the inner hubs, that thing should be a little bit closer, like the way that I have mine set up. But overall, can you tell the difference between the two if they were, say, painted and put out? The thickness of the ring and maybe the little bit of the shape of the tooth. Theirs seem to be a little bit bulkier at the bottom, whereas the ones I have are a little bit thicker. I did not take the notch out like they have on theirs. I have seen examples like this. I have not seen examples like that. But overall, they are, you know, they are almost exactly the same, just some small detail iterations. So, you know, kudos to them. I don't like their lightning relief holes. I like mine as far as how they're shaped and go in. Totally different discussion, but there you go. That's that. Now the idlers. These are very simple. Now, what I did not do when I put these on is I did not add part P1, which is the little black piece, because I don't want my sprockets turning. I don't want them coming off. When I put it on, I want it on. Is that going to fit? You know, that's a completely legitimate question, okay? So this piece is still going to fit. It's going to slide in behind that scraper, I guess is what that is, right there. You just have to turn this so that the teeth miss it. Goes in. You can glue it on. It's solid. There's no wiggling. It's fine. As far as mine going, I'm going to have to adapt this a little bit to the particular mount there. Gets a little fatter. See how much deeper that is in there? Then there's just a slight shift. Either that or this is a little bit too thick compared to theirs. Anyways, their differences, I'll have to deal with that, but goes right on there. Shouldn't be a problem without that centerpiece right there, P1. The same thing goes with this right here. Now I want you to see, if I put this on without that piece in there, it's just this little bit here, and maybe if something pokes into the end, that attaches it on there. So in this case, I'm going to take parts P2, and there are only 2 of them, and everything's on, listed on here, and just stick them in there. Just so then you can also see how it's done, this, how it's set up, and how basically RFM didn't just copy this from somewhere else. Take this from a Bradley kit or whatever. They've done their own unique thing, good or bad. You know, you can talk amongst yourselves as to what you think about that. Put a little glue in here. And put this together like so. It's pretty simple. There's nothing you can do. Now, one thing I don't agree with, because I have not seen this in any of the photos, is they have the back idler wheel thicker than the front idler wheel. My understanding of it and the way it should be is that the wheel itself, you should be able to put it on front or back onto the center spindle. That's part of how it gets redone or used, or spare parts. You break an idler, you just take it off of the shaft, unbolt it, put a new one on. Doesn't matter if it's front or back, so then you don't have two parts, which you might run out of one before another. You have one part and you can just put it on there. So I disagree with this thicker rear part in the front. Anybody out there knows different, feel free to let me know. And actually, when you're putting this together, it's better to put the rubber grommet in the inside, the interior, I guess. It's half of the road wheel. Now, why do I think that that's thicker? I'm wondering if it doesn't have something to do with the way that they've set up. Honestly, I don't know. I think somebody just screwed up. So those are built. Here's why. I also went through a lot of pain making sure that this idler that I have for the Bradley was correct. This is not exactly the same, so you can't replace them. But if I were to guess, I would guess that they kind of screwed up on both. Thicker on the inside, thinner on the outside, and they should be uniform. Probably split the difference between them and do it. I'll do more research into whether or not there's anything else as far as is this actually the correct design, or all the bolts where they belong, stuff like that. But that's something that I noticed. So there's your idlers, or your sprockets. There's your idlers. Now we're on to the road wheels. And this kit, I'm sorry, these go down here. This kit suffers from every other Bradley kit out on the market that I've seen. I know that most people don't care, but I care, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and I've seen it way too much dealing with Bradleys, and that is this part right here. They have a rim. There is no rim on a Bradley-based road wheel, not on the M109 road wheels. There's no rim. It is vulcanized rubber all the way around. They stamp it, and it comes up, and it just kind of goes to this curve. This lip rolls around, and the vulcanized rubber goes right to it and around. So it's like there's no rim at all, because there's no rim. Why did they do that? I'm not 100% sure why they did that. I don't know if it has to do with wear and tear, or increasing the vibrations, or decreasing the vibrations from the track and the road wheel, or just because it's an easier process for manufacturing. But it is what it is. Now, I've only got enough parts here to make 4 road wheels, 1 for each of the 4 corners. That's what I'm going to do for making sure that the vehicle sits level. The road wheel arms are where they belong. I may make more, but I also don't want to spend 15 minutes of time putting together road wheels for you guys to see the way that's going. You'll get an idea of it. So I am, however, going to pull out a set of these rubber interior. I don't even know what to call them. I don't even remember what Tommy calls them. Polycaps? But they're significantly smaller. They're just meant to grab. I think that that's actually maybe smart, because you can put them on and take them off, and maybe they don't grab. Don't know yet. Haven't put one of these together. So these have the typical almost complete ring around them with a little tab, so you can just do that. Throw in a rubber piece, and then put the road wheel on until it catches that positive alignment. And there you go. I mean, it's pretty simple. And then you just have to glue on these pieces that I'm complaining about. Now, you can glue more than just that. They slide on the whole thing and leave a little bit of a ring on the back as well, but that'll get you if you don't want to over glue it. I'm going to say, now that I just did that, the easiest way is just put some glue around the rim, grab a wheel, an outer part, glue it on. Ta-da, road wheel. Not the end of the world, but instead of 2 parts like in a Tamiya kit, this is 4 parts plus the interior plug. So I guess 3 parts for the Tamiya kit, outer wheel, inner wheel, plug. This is now 5 parts. Is it the end of the world? Not if they would have done these stupid vulcanized rubber exterior parts the way they should have. There's no reason for it now. Everybody knows that they have no rims. So I'm wondering if there isn't just some obstinacy with it because modelers like having a rim. You can dry brush it and it looks like where the wheel should be. You know, whatever. Everybody's a creature of habit, but it's still wrong. Okay, so what's the deal? Yeah, I got a plug in that I made new road wheels. Because I recognized that, and it annoyed me to no end, having known that, especially if anybody's a model builder that has worked on a Bradley and done the suspension work, meaning changed out road wheels or broken track, and you know this, you saw this all the time. It's there. It's not something that's going away. Nobody's tricked anybody. It's not like there's a variant out there that doesn't have this. They're all made the same way. Is it really recognizable? Sadly, you know, I didn't think so at first, and then I started going to shows or looking at pictures online, and I'm like, oh, yep, I totally see it now. Not because I'm looking so hard, but as modelers, what do? We want to emphasize the details. So people are doing a lot of highlighting of the road wheels, and you know, you got all those nice bolts and the caps and all that. Well, it's also grabbing the rim that doesn't exist. So in its own way, because of the detail that it is, it's really highlighting itself. And you know, just looking at vehicles, it's annoying too. What can you do besides buying new road wheels? Well, you can go in and grind those all down. Have fun. Just like with the tracks where there's like 10 million parts to build them and everybody's annoyed with it. Here's another aspect to where you got a lot more work to do to build something nice not from a 1990s era kit, not from a 2010 era kit, but from a kit from 2025. Massive amounts of information out and about, and yet here we are. We still have rims where there are no rims. This isn't something esoteric like the slight angle on a T62 rear engine deck or the asymmetric turret of a Tiger tank or something like that. This is rims on a road wheel, for crying out loud. All right, so what am I complaining about? So here, this is what it should look like. This has been sadly, meticulously looked at. The rubberized portion here is a little thin. That rim should extend further in. The bolts should be a little chonkier, in my opinion. But this is what the wheel should look like according to measurements. Right here, almost exactly the same size. The RFM road wheels are just a little bit thinner, a little bit closer together, just enough to get the track pin through. Or not track pin, guide horn through. But this is what it should look like. This is what you get. Now, the last thing that needs to be done, now that I've complained about that, and yes, though these road wheels are available online, however, they're not ready for this kit. I don't have a drop-in ready to go. I've got 2 versions right here, but I'm going to have to modify these as well because they're not set up for RFM's road wheel arms. However, they come as one piece like this. You get it, it's one piece, it will be ready to go. You just push it on, glue it on, but you can paint, you can sit there and prime it, paint it up, have it done, ready to go. Boom, done, no big deal. Now, The last bit that goes on here is, again, as I was saying, that last suspension station. Now, despite how it initially looks, the road wheel arms all point in the same direction. So this road wheel arm right here goes on here. If you've taken it apart and cleaned it up, goes like that. It does not point the other way. Don't fall for that. I gotta get my forceps for this. Downside to these containers is they're just deep enough you can't quite grab everything. Now, I will commend RFM for spending the time on at least doing a good job. Let me move this out of the way. A good job on trying to replicate that suspension. It's not easy. I know that it's not 100% correct. Nothing is, but it's a lot better than just a post on the lower hull like a lot of companies have done in the past. So we've got this right here, the actual suspension arm. These are the exact same. There's no problem. These shocks are exactly the same. No difference. These shocks are exactly the same. No difference. The only difference is the road wheel arms. Make sure you've got them, that they're set up like this and pointing backwards. That is key. Second part is they've got to be the ones with the points on there for putting the shocks on. That's important too. So they'll attach like this. This is not 100% accurate. This is a little undersized. I'm not going to really get all bent about it, but that's the way that this is set up, and it needs some work. It's a model kit. They put some effort into it. That's a good thing right there. They didn't abandon the modeler and just go, well, take it for what it is. So what I'm going to do is, okay, it's got a pin on it to center it, and that's kind of my whole point right there. They have an actual pin that goes onto the torsion arm that is supposed to be mobile, so that this thing sits in a certain area. So you're going to have to shear, if you want to really have a wanked out suspension, you're going to have to shear that pin off and freelance it on there anyway. So why have the torsion bar arms and all the other assorted difficulties that go with it? Yes, I'm complaining because I can. So I'm going to put the piece on like so. There's a little fuzz in there, but that gets me that on there rock solid. This is not going anywhere. You are not adjusting this unless you take the pin off. You may have to, if you really wanted to show this compressed, you will have to cut the shock and adjust the height so that if this is compressed, that's shorter. So it's not just a simple case of, hey, let's just adjust it. There's some work involved. Next one is this particular part. It goes with a key. So in this case, it shows it up higher in, which is, it's kind of odd to look at, so I'm going to do the other side here first. This one here shows it like so, like so. See how it's pointed up into the hull. This one is also pointed up into the hull. Again, same part, different direction. And here is the small shock absorber that is associated with that. It just goes in this slot right here. So what I want to do is get this set up first, because all of this is going to be kind of wonky. As you may have noticed by doing the work on this now up to this point. So I'm going to slide that, if I can, and then twist it like so. Much like White Snake said, I'm going to slide it in. Yes, it's a bad joke. Anyways. And then I'm going to apply some glue here. This, I feel, gives me the best opportunity, because I'm pushing against this shock while putting this in at the right height, so it should all be pretty square and center. I will have to adjust as needed. remember to look down the line of your there we go. Look down the line of those to make sure everything lines up right so it doesn't get wonky later on. This is the time to do it when you're doing it. I also will take the flat edge of my metal ruler and just eyeball it and see how things look this way while I can. This one looks a little too far in. Might adjust it out. This thing looks a little too far in. And it's a little, and this is important, it's a little conked. I mean, this arm is not straight. This is going to be sticking out at a much more different angle than the rest of this. We'll have to see how that works out. And to show that, you can see straight, 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 and then at the very end it kind of erps in. I'm not exactly sure why or how to adjust for that. That's gonna take some thinking. Oh, well, look there. It looks like maybe when it was in transport in the kit, it did that. Good to know. So I'm going to do some battlefield fixing right here. There. Looks like it got stressed when it was being sent to me, and I will admit the kit that I got came from China before any of the current problems with getting kits, and the way it came was in the minimal packaging, maximum threat of being squashed, and one corner of the box was mangled. But aside from that I've seen, there have been no other problems. So check over your kit. That's an excellent time to do that. I'll do the same thing on this side over here. Less commentary, more work. I think that gets me moving a little bit better. So that lines up a lot better. Need a little bit of glue on the backside for the shock. There we go. Again, rock solid. No need for a torsion bar or anything here. And again, this is the 6th spot. Don't use the non-shock absorber one from earlier. Be aware. Make sure it looks like this. Rock solid. I'm happy. Moving on. Go. And I hope that you saw that. I'm paying attention to the parts going on. I'm not paying attention to whether it's in focus, and I apologize for that. But I'm not gluing anything until I put this on, just to make sure that everything's easily movable. So looking at it, now that I've adjusted in that regard, what I would say is check this now with your rear piece, because that rear one with the shock is not moving. That is the least mobile part. That is online, looks great. Looking down, so I'll try and adjust that for you. Looks really, really good. Time to check the other side for the same thing. Remember, this time it's up at that end is not mobile, and when you do this I would push this way so then you're not stressing out your mounts. And with this one having been kind of readjusted, where I'm gonna double check that looks really good right there. again, looking down the line, I think that looks good. So that gets you through step 3. Again, I did not do those attachment points, mud guards, any of that from step 2. I'm not going to, partly because mud guards are going to be impossible to deal with till we're in the final build part of this. So there it is through step 3. This gets me where I want to be, which is in preparation for doing the new T161 tracks for it. So I'm not doing the kit ones. I hope this helps you out. See you for the next step.